Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. Before we get started, let's introduce everyone on this meeting. I'm Sandy Brock. When I call your name, please confirm you can hear me by verifying that you are present. We'll start with the commissioners. Travis,
I'm here.
Jonathan,
Present.
thank you. Noah,
Present.
and Amara's not here. She couldn't make it tonight. Okay, we'll go to staff. Leah,
I'm here.
and is Jan here also?
I'm present.
Thank you very much. This open meeting of the Conservation Commission is being conducted remotely via Zoom pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order, as most recently extended on March 28th, 2025. Access information for the public has been provided on the town website. This meeting is being recorded. Please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. This is done on a phone by pressing *6. As chair, I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. Please note that you will not have screen sharing privileges, but staff can display any visuals per your cue. During periods of public comment, participants must use the raise hand icon in the Zoom menu bar to indicate they would like to speak. This is done on a phone by pressing *9 and then *6 to unmute when you are called on. Participants who raise their hand will be recognized one at a time and will be promoted to speak. Finally, each vote taken will be conducted by a roll call vote. As a reminder, the Commission is concerned with state and town wetlands and stormwater regulations. Concerns outside of this purview need to be addressed by the appropriate boards. For example, road conditions must be addressed by the Select Board and traffic concerns must be addressed by the Planning Board. All right. Okay, so, um, do we have any times, Leah? Or
Nope.
can we? Nope. Okay, cool. So we can start off with Wyman Gordon. Let me open the meeting. Pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, the Grafton Stormwater Management Bylaw, and the Grafton Wetlands Protection Act, Conservation Commission will act upon a notice of intent, application for Grafton Stormwater Bylaw permit, and application for a Grafton Wetlands Bylaw permit for the construction of a solar array at 244 Worcester Street. Who's here to present that? Please unmute yourself and identify yourself.
So I think it's myself, Adam Hartman, and then Nick Fasendola.
Okay. And you are representing the applicant and you are the applicant?
Correct. I am the applicant, and Nick is also assisting and representing us.
Okay. You have the floor. Just let Jan know if you want to have any presentation stuff, and go ahead and go ahead with your presentation.
Absolutely. I'll go ahead and kick things off and then kind of turn it over to Nick. For me, it's just giving a little bit of background about the facility. The area in question, or the area where the solar would be located, encompasses approximately 10.8 acres out of the 162.8 acre site. North Wyman Gordon, North Grafton. The plant's been there since 1982. It was originally designated as Air Force Plant 63, but Wyman Gordon has always been operating it. And then they did acquire the project back in 1982. Today, it houses one of the nation's largest forging presses and several of the world's most powerful hydraulic presses. Perfect. I apologize. I should have asked you to put that up to begin with. If we want to go to the next slide. The 10.8 acre portion contains several outbuilding support structures that once served the main press building but are no longer in use. Converting this area into a ground-mounted solar array represents a significant investment in the facility's future. It also demonstrates the company's commitment to modernizing the site, improving sustainability, and removing outdated infrastructure that no longer contributes to the operations. Next slide, please. Perfect. You can see kind of the map here. You can see the main building, and then Nick will kind of get into more of this, but then you can see the solar array off to the side. And then the last slide, again, project size approximately 3 megawatts, footprint again 10.8 acres, number of solar panels approximately 1,750. What does this project really do? It's going to help us reduce the strain on the electrical grid during peak demand, potentially improving reliability for areas kind of around the plant, generates both direct and indirect temporary employment opportunities, and as we spoke before, reinforces Wyman Gordon's long-term commitment to North Grafton, signaling stability and continued investment. And again, enables the modernization of the aging infrastructure that's no longer in use, improving operational efficiency and positioning the facility for future growth. I'm sure you guys are very well aware. One of the things that has changed in this world, I feel like, in the last, I don't know, 10-ish years, is the price of power and also the reliability of power. And this kind of allows us to, be able to stay competitive in the marketplace, also have, decrease our carbon footprint and so forth. But that's really about it for me. I would really turn it over to Nick at this point.
All right, thank you, Adam. So for the record, Nick Fasendola, I'm from Level Design Group. We prepared the site plans and notice of intent application that were submitted to the Conservation Commission for this project. Um, Jan, I guess if we could just pull up the submitted site plan and we'll essentially just work through the sheets. Probably start with the third sheet, which is that plan that essentially Adam just had up right there. So, right, you were on it, that first one there. So this is just an overview plan, kind of gives a full look at the larger parcel that is Wyman Gordon. I'm sure the commission members are familiar with the facility. It's right off of Route 122, Worcester Street, on your way to getting onto the Mass Pike. Large building. It's been a staple in the town for a very long time. So what we're proposing to do is, as Adam said, install this solar array in the northwestern portion of the site. So our site plans, our scope of work really focused on that area alone. So we don't get any detail on what's going on, in the front of the site with the office building or on the easterly section of the site. There are additional resource areas far to the east, that blue area, that's a FEMA flood zone, and there's a large wetland complex located in that surrounding flood zone. We're not looking for approval of that wetland area, solely the area defined on these project plans. I guess go down to the next sheet right there. So this is our existing conditions survey of the project area. This essentially starts at the property boundary located on the south. And to the south of us is a parcel of land that was sold off that was in front of the commission a few years back, 232 Worcester Street. That was permitted for, I believe, was a 330,000 square foot warehouse facility. Those project permits are still active, but the project obviously has not been constructed yet. Wyman Gordon did sell the parcel, so they no longer have ownership of that parcel, but they do have an agreement with the current owner to maintain the access driveways, the guard shack, and utilize some of the infrastructure until the property gets built. And once that development gets built, there's a proposed common shared driveway, which will provide access to a portion of the Wyman Gordon facility, and a new main driveway will be constructed on Wyman Gordon's property on the far easterly side of the site. But now we're focusing essentially on this westerly property line, and you can see here. I don't know if anybody's had a chance to look at the plans, but what we pretty much have here for resource areas is an intermittent stream, and there's some BVW that is associated with that intermittent stream. This wetland and bank was flagged by GZA Environmental a few months back before the snow came in, and it's a relatively straightforward delineation. We've got both sides of the stream banks flagged, and then there's a small pocket of, if you zoom in a little bit, Jan, I don't know if you can do that, kind of where the buffer zone, yeah, right around in that area right there. So there's a small wetland that protrudes out from the bank right in that area. And then GZA noted a small intermittent stream. It's like 3 flags. It's essentially a drainage ditch, but we're respecting that 25-foot no disturb zone nonetheless right through that area. Um, Also in this area, something to keep note of, the dashed gray lines that are moving, going, we'll say page south to north. That's an existing water line easement owned by the town of Grafton. There's a existing water line that provides water service to the, I think it's Creeper Hill Road neighborhood that is located on the northerly side of the property across the railroad tracks. So you can kind of scroll up a little bit. We just kind of see the existing area. In this area, you'll see that there's some vegetated wooded area where Jan has the cursor right now, but also to the right is where the more developed areas are. The metal building, the other existing facilities, tanks, all those structures are proposed to be removed. So I guess if we kind of go to the next sheet, which is just a continuation. So there's a match line. So if you go down to the bottom, right, the stream, which is Bonnie Brook, I forgot to mention that, continues and it's goes through a series of culverts, as you can see on the previous page. There was a culvertized section, and then there's another culvertized section as the stream goes behind an existing electric substation. That's how the facility gets its power. So they're directly connected to the transmission lines that are directly located to the west of the site. And electrical infrastructure goes into the substation and is converted, and the power then goes to the plant. There are no changes being proposed to that substation. That's going to remain as is. That's an integral component of the facility. So as we continue north, there's a noted BVW that's located on the western off the site in the National Grid owned parcel that abuts the existing intermittent stream, but it's essentially just bank of intermittent stream as you continue further up the page. And it goes into another set of culverts where it crosses under I believe it's the railroad tracks, or no, there's it's another pathway that would provide access. This whole area used to be interconnected, so there are some existing pathways that are no longer used, but that provided access to the electrical property owned by National Grid to the west. Then the intermittent stream then kind of turns right as it goes through those culverts and then goes along to the east and behind the building where it continues on. But that's where we limited our delineation work to as it's just defined to our proposed scope of work. It's hard to kind of, without driving, kind of show all this. I apologize if I'm kind of jumping all over the place without being able to zoom in on certain things. But that's a quick and basic description of the resource area delineation. Are there any questions on what exists out there for resource area?
So we'll go around afterwards and ask people
Okay,
for questions. So
sure.
keep on going, get through your presentations, and then
Not
we'll
a problem.
up.
So the next couple sheets are demo plans. These sheets highlight what's the improvements that are going to go on to the site, as Adam described, the removal of aging infrastructure that's no longer being used. So we have a series of existing buildings that are just no longer being used. They served a purpose for the facility at one point in time, but as operations have changed, things have modernized. They no longer need a lot of these outbuildings to satisfy their needs. There's also an existing parking lot. It's at the top of the sheet here, an associated driveway that provided parking to these buildings that were utilized, 40, 50 years ago. That's no longer needed. So all of these existing impervious structures, parking, walkways, buildings they're all proposed to be removed as part of this. And then there's some old railroad tracks that we're going to remove as well, some small pump houses. Essentially, we want to get this to be a nice, clean grass field to install the solar facility on. So if you go up to the next sheet, this just defines a little bit more of the demo work that's occurring in this area. I do want to bring attention to the commission's attention to the long, narrow building which exists right at the edge of the 25-foot no disturb zone. So that building's slated to be raised as part of the project, and as part of the application, we did request a waiver for some work within the 25-foot no disturb zone. And that's essentially to provide a little bit of space on that back side of that building and able to complete the building removal. We'll get into that as we get further into the presentation, but I just wanted to make note of that building, which sits essentially right on the edge of the 25-foot no disturb zone. I think it's about a foot into it. That's the nature of the proposed request for work within the 25-foot no disturb zone. Next sheet, please. So now we'll move on to essentially, this is the site plan. So overall, it's a relatively straightforward site plan. In the center, you can see where we have all our solar tables and racking. We have a proposed gravel driveway. That's that darker hatched filled in area that is located to the west of the array that connects to an existing driveway. You scroll down a little bit to the bottom of the page right there. So that'll be one of the access points to the solar array. The array is required to be completely fenced in as it's a power generating facility. So it'll have a new fence installed around it. There is some existing fence that we're going to try and tie into to minimize the amount of required fencing. But I wanted to bring the commission's attention to, if you can zoom in where we zoomed in before, Jan, on that small intermittent stream area. Yeah, right there. So we have a little bit of disturbance within the 25-foot no disturb zone just to install the fencing. So a few fence posts. And in that area, it's right at the edge of that, we'll call it drainage channel or intermittent stream, those three flags that are right there, a little bit to the north. Yeah, right there. So we can't move the fence over any further to the right because there we have that existing easement. And it was a request of the planning board as well to make sure that we maintain access to that existing easement, as it's a water line and things will inevitably go bad or will need to be replaced at some point, which is why we were installing the fence line on the westerly side of that easement. So it's just through that really narrow section, a few fence posts, and on a revised set of plans that I submitted yesterday. I know we're not discussing those as we didn't make the deadline, but I did add some additional notes for additional erosion controls to be installed in that area when that fencing goes in, and for those 3 or 4 fence posts to be dug by hand. It's a simple request to not go in there with any heavy equipment and install those fence posts by hand. So that's one of the items I wanted to bring to the commission's attention. So you can zoom back out, Jan, thank you. And we'll kind of continue going through the proposed array. So as part of all of this proposed development, and you can kind of see here, we're on the next sheet, the array is essentially broken up into 2 sections. We have the section north of the substation, which we have here, and then the section what we're calling south of the substation. Just a nice clean break as we're maintaining that existing driveway that provides access for maintenance to the substation. And we're tying our gravel driveway in, which goes around the perimeter of the array into that existing driveway infrastructure. So we don't have to do any additional work. So that's a little bit of impervious cover that's going to remain as part of the post-development conditions. The electrical substation, that's not even part of the project area. Nothing's happening with that, but that will remain. That is impervious coverage right there. And then there's an existing building at the call it the southeasterly part of the sheet. So that building will be raised as far as the building will be demoed, but the slab that it sits on will remain in place. And that's for environmental purposes. We were told that the foundation and the slab cannot be removed for that structure. That's the only structure that will be raised that will have the foundation left in place. Something to do with some sort of environmental AUL item that is associated with that. So that slab has to remain in place. With that slab remaining in place, we're going to be utilizing that impervious coverage as a place to set our proposed equipment for the solar array. So we have transformers, DC converters. I'll let Adam kind of get into that stuff. That's not my area of expertise. If you guys have any questions on that, but all of these systems always have a dedicated area where you have a majority of the larger equipment. So we're going to be utilizing that existing impervious area to install the necessary infrastructure to run this proposed solar facility. Now, as you go along to the north, we still have the proposed gravel driveway, which goes around the facility. The driveway going around the facility, that was a request of the fire department. We met with them during the IRT meeting process, and that was one of their main requests of the site plan, that we include access around the perimeter of the entire array. To the east, there's an existing paved driveway that we're going to utilize that exists today. But as you go to the west, close to the intermittent stream, we have to install a narrow gravel driveway. As part of planning all this, we made sure to keep that driveway outside of the 25-foot no disturb zone, and associated with that, all the panels are located outside the 25-foot no disturb zone. We do have some, obviously there's panels within the 100-foot zone, 100-foot buffer zone in this northerly section. As you go down, there are some panels within the 100-foot buffer zone in the southerly portion of the array. Stormwater management. So as part of this project, we are not proposing any new stormwater management basins or systems or anything of that nature. And the reasoning behind that is because the redevelopment of this is removing 1.5 acres of impervious coverage, and we're not creating any new impervious coverage with the proposed development. So we're drastically improving the existing site conditions with regards to stormwater management and compliance with DEP standards. We did receive our third-party review from Graves Engineering, and they had a few minor comments and agreed with our stormwater management design and calculations. We provided supporting calculations to detail that peak rates of runoff and volume are being decreased through the removal of the impervious coverage and converting that area to essentially lawn space underneath the array. All the disturbed areas are going to be raked, seeded with a solar farm seed mix. I think I expect an Ernst solar farm seed mix, which is pretty standard for this type of application. And also, as part of this development, we are removing some wooded vegetated areas. That's more down in the southerly portion of the array, where we are removing approximately 2.4 acres of vegetated area. I'm not going to call it woods because it's not a pristine wooded forest. This is a previously disturbed area that's grown in over the years. So smaller trees, 6-inch trees, 4-inch trees, but it is vegetated. So we classified it as woods as part of our analysis. Um, let's see. We also submitted a phasing plan, or we can go to the next sheet, which is erosion and sediment controls. So we have a erosion and sediment control plan where we're proposing perimeter erosion controls around, obviously, the um, entire facility that's proposed, focusing on the area adjacent to the intermittent stream. We have a construction entrance to the south, some material stockpile areas. We're going to utilize some of these existing paved parking areas for contractor parking, equipment, storage, fueling, things of that nature. So that'll occur in that existing paved lot in that area. Where we noted we had the paved parking lot kind of in the center where the array is going to go, that will remain in place for the beginning of construction when we're doing the building demo and some of the tree removal work. So we're not going to rip up that pavement right away. We're going to leave that pavement down so that area stays stabilized as we complete all this demo work and tree cutting work and utilize that area as kind of like an area to store materials, dumpsters, things of that nature, some of the equipment until we get into the real detail work for constructing the array. Let's see. I guess I can go to the next sheet. It just kind of details a few more erosion control items. We have a second construction entrance located at the top of the page. We're trying to keep construction vehicles out of that center driveway that would be going, providing access to the substation. That's why we have those two separate construction entry points, and able to keep a clear pathway to the substation. But perimeter controls are going to be 12-inch silt socks, and that's what we're proposing for perimeter erosion controls. And as far as project phasing, we did submit a phasing plan after the initial submission, as Jan brought that to my attention. I don't know if you have that here, Jan.
I can pull it up.
Okay. So this kind of gives a detailed look at how we're going to construct this. So essentially, I broke it down into 4 phases. Where phase 1 is building demo, cleaning up all that existing on-site infrastructure, and then cutting of the trees. You get your tree contractor in, they'll cut all the trees, and then we'll move into phase 2. Obviously, we'll install the erosion and sediment controls first. That's the first line item on the on phase 1. And then we'll get into phase 2, which is the southerly array, so the area south of that substation. That area is going to have a majority of the stumping and grubbing that's required. So that's where you're going to get a lot of your exposed ground, right? So we're going to, in phase 2, after phase 1's complete, we'll move right into phase 2, pull those stumps, do any grading, rough grade in the proposed, get that driveway area graded in, and then immediately seed this. And then give that some time to stabilize, and then move on to the northerly portion of the array, while that area, which is going to have the most exposed, quote unquote, soil from the removal of the stumps, that will then move to the northerly section, do the installation of the gravel driveway, minor grading up through there. In that northerly section, which is on the right side of the page, it's primarily all grass today. There's 2 small pockets of some vegetated trees. So we're going to leave that existing vegetation, being the grass, in place. Obviously, it's going to get disturbed a little bit from some equipment moving over it. But for the most part, we're hoping to preserve that as much as we can. And then once that area, the driveway's been installed and we've cleaned up all the areas, we'll seed any exposed areas in there. And then installation of the racking and solar panel infrastructure will begin. And then it'll start on the southerly portion of the array. So we're trying to, this whole, the intent of this plan is to minimize how much exposed soil we have at the site at one time, focus on getting the large portions of the site work completed, the grading done, and then stabilize it immediately. And then come in, install the racking, the tables. There's going to be some spots that get dug up that are going to need to be raked and cleaned up, but that's better than working in an area that's all mud, right? So I've worked on a lot of these solar sites, and this is a good way to go about the process where you get the site as stable as possible before installing the racking, and then proceed with that portion, and then go in and clean up any other disturbed areas for final seeding as part of phase 4. All right. And last but not least, as part of our application, we submitted 2 waiver requests. I quickly touched on the first one, which is the work within the 25-foot no disturb zone. We have those 2 areas behind the existing building that we need to take down for some minor work in there, and we have the work to install that small section of fencing. The second waiver is related to the stormwater requirements, and this is a waiver related to the MS4 permit requirements of 80% TSS and 50% phosphorus removal. So I did have a detailed discussion with Leah and the town's consultant on this. And the goal is not to skirt the requirement. It's more or less to request a waiver to allow us a different way to document compliance with this, because the way the calculations work, whether you use the UNH program that the VHB consultant recommended, or you use the EPA's phosphorus removal calculator, they require an input of impervious coverage that's being treated by a stormwater management best management practice, whether it's an infiltration basin, whether it's a bioretention basin, infiltration swale, a slew of those practices provide you with removal percentages that would satisfy, say, 80% and 50%. We don't have that here. What we're doing is we are removing and reducing the phosphorus and sediment load through a land use conversion. So I did recently, as of yesterday, submit some updated calculations. I'm sure that the consultant and Leah haven't had a chance to go over them yet, but we will be providing significant reductions in total phosphorus and TSS loading. Now, this is TSS loading as it relates to the EPA's definition, not Mass DEP, because they're 2 separate ways of calculating it. So based on the federal regulations, the site as it exists today generates 4.79 pounds per year of total phosphorus. After we remove all the impervious coverage, the driveways, the parking areas, and convert this land to primarily a grassed area, the total phosphorus that will be produced is going to be 1.93 pounds per year, which is a net reduction of 2.85. So a significant reduction in phosphorus, but there's no quantifiable way to give that a removal percentage as per the bylaw, the way it states it. Because the bylaw states that the percentage is based on the total impervious coverage of the project. So the phosphorus generated by the impervious coverage. And like I stated before, we're removing essentially all the impervious coverage except for that little strip driveway that goes to the substation and that existing building foundation. So there's a significant reduction in phosphorus, but it doesn't fall in line with the bylaw requirement per se. So I did submit these calculations. I know they haven't been reviewed yet, but I just wanted to bring them up this evening, and I'm sure that the consultant will have some time to take a look at them, and will likely coordinate a little bit further on this topic, as it's not a straightforward scenario like you would have, say, if I was developing a shopping plaza and I was putting in a 1 acre parking lot that was going to drain to a new infiltration basin. Extremely straightforward to satisfy those requirements. But for something like this, where it's redevelopment, improving existing conditions, it doesn't follow that straight line, right, to get to those exact numbers. So just one more item to close. So with regards to the TSS loading rate in pounds per year, the existing site generates 1,023 pounds of TSS per year. The proposed development conditions will be at about 420 pounds per year. That's a reduction of over 600 pounds per year. So significant reductions are being realized as part of this redevelopment. They're just not quantifiable as far as utilizing those tools that certain types of stormwater management practices give you identified removal percentages. So that's it. I feel like I've talked way too much, and I apologize about that. So I'll open it up to questions, let you guys go from there. Thank you.
I'll take care of the questions and directing that. So, all right. So why don't we just start by going around all the folks on the commission, see if you have any questions. I have a whole bunch. Jonathan, any questions?
So my main question would be, when we're stripping up in this project all the impervious, are we doing a significant amount of regrading to repitch it? Is it relatively flat in there? Just my knowledge of the site from living in the area and driving by there, it looks like it's relatively flat. So are we concerned if we strip off the impervious and any other storm conditions in there that we're going to have ponding water underneath these panels, or is this going to be graded and pitched away? I couldn't tell from the skim. So I guess that's my high level question is there, thinking of ponding water during heavy rain events and significant, snow melt, that type of thing, how would that be dealt with on site? Is it through grading just to get spread out across the pervious area, the new grass area under the panels, or is this something that you would consider putting in additional storm management structures within that to help handle it due to the flatness of the site? I don't know if that's something that's been considered or not.
So Jonathan, let me add a few things to that question, because I did look at the grading. There's minimal grading shown on the plans. There's a high point. My questions along with that, there's some areas of 10% grades. So it's like, okay, there's some areas that are flat, some that have some slope to it, some aren't bad slopes. There's only a couple areas where there's existing slopes where it's about 10% or so. So I guess to Nick's kind of to make two questions into one, and to kind of build on what Jonathan is saying, is the fact that there's two components in my estimation. Is one, the question of how high are the panels above the ground? That's one question. That's an easy one. What's the height over the actual existing conditions?
Um, so I think I can answer that.
Yep.
Or I shouldn't say it. I think I'm probably the appropriate person to answer that. Nick, jump in if you feel like I'm too far out of my reach. But you're looking at an average of. I'm going to be conservative and give a range here, but you're typically like 24 to I'll say 38 inches
Okay.
from the lowest part to the ground.
Okay. And the reason why I'm asking, and Nick can add to this, is that DEP has given a policy out as the height of the panels and how it impacts drainage and so forth. So to add to Jonathan's questions, depending upon the height, how far the rainfall, so you are considered a pervious site because even though you have all of this impervious area of the panels, it comes off the panels, then hits the ground. But to build on Jonathan's thing is if you have them up, say, depending upon the grading, depending upon the system, sometimes you can have them 5, 6, 7 feet high for various reasons. And then you have the water falling a certain depth to hit the ground. So my question always with that is that are you doing a drip edge or anything else to kind of mitigate any kind of erosion at that? Because you always have a line at the bottom of the solar panels. And that is then coupled with like Jonathan's question about grading, which was one of my questions, is the fact that you do have certain areas that are steeper than others. You're concentrating the flow of the rain because you're putting it in a very narrow place along the drip edge. And then if it's really flat, you can usually do some things. Sometimes a drip edge is kind of warranted and other times it's not. So I would kind of take all those things and throw into one, Nick, as far as if you have any consideration of doing a drip edge, and if there's areas within the site because of the steepness of it, are you putting any drip edges in?
So
We don't. Oh, go ahead, Adam.
the only thing I was going to add is first and foremost, I've been through a lot of these. That's a great question, and very rarely are we asked that. The generic answer that I would give is we're going to maintain positive drainage. Because water puddling underneath the panels does me no good, right? It's going to attract animals, bugs, and it's going to cause issues with maintaining vegetation and so forth. So always will work to maintain positive drainage, but I'll let Nick answer.
Yeah, so kind of two questions here, right? So we have the grading of the site, and when we do remove the buildings, right? Obviously, voids will be filled. So for foundations, slabs for buildings, things are pulled up. Those will have to be filled in um, to grade and to drain properly. We don't want to leave any giant puddling spots or voids of things of that nature. We do show some grading through the southerly section of the array where there's a larger structure, walkways, a few buildings. It's kind of, yeah, in the center of this page right now. This page doesn't show the grading. You got to go to the site plan to see that. And then as far as the parking lot goes, that will just essentially follow the natural grade. Any other areas that are being having impervious coverage removed, we're trying to keep the drainage patterns the same for what exists today. So we're not drastically changing how the site is draining from today to tomorrow when the system's installed. So that's what we're doing. So anywhere where, we're not going to leave any large areas ponded, any giant voids. A lot of that will be worked out in the field for the most part. We're not looking to change the drainage patterns of this area from what they are today. We want the stormwater to kind of follow those same natural patterns where it's running off from the site today. We want it to continue to do that and run off in those same general patterns. Now, with regards to maintenance and concerns with runoff from the panels, drip edge management. No, I did include some information on that within, let me see, the O&M plan that we provided, I believe. Just trying to dig it up here. So this would be in the stormwater report, operation and maintenance plan. There's a little blurb about, a page about solar, the maintenance of the site, not primarily the stormwater the system, but vegetation management. And there's a section in there that details, inspect the arrays for what I call ruts, drip gullies, any areas causing concentrated flows, right? That's the main thing we want to avoid. And that eventually leads to erosion. So I detail in there, if you do come across those areas that those are going to be raked out and reseeded. And then I have a section, let's see, on the O&M plan called drip gully management. So, and it kind of details what to do if that's encountered. Because inevitably, when you have these larger sites like this, you're going to have some areas where the runoff is going to want to concentrate, or you're going to have some small areas of erosion. So, we try to get ahead of this by just having good site maintenance, right? Inspecting the site, doing visual inspections when vegetation management's occurring. And if there's anything that's observed from the maintenance crew, that it gets addressed before it becomes a nuisance, where, if you're having water shed off and it's creating a gully and then it starts to erode the soil, we don't want that to happen either. So we do have some notation in here as far as part of the management plan on how to manage what we call drip gullies, but that would be runoff from the leading edge that's causing ruts.
Yeah, and that's one thing to add too. Most solar arrays that are out there are what I would call absentee owners, from the perspective that there's not people around, generally, except your maintenance intervals or if there's issues. The advantage we have here is obviously the plant is staffed 24/7, and we will have regiments where folks will keep an eye on it from an environmental perspective, and then obviously we'll have maintenance intervals and different things like that. But I feel like we will get some additional oversight here because of that.
Okay, thank you.
And
Jonathan.
Can I ask an additional question, Sandy?
Yeah, I was just going to go back to you if you had something else. Yep.
Sure. Are the ballasts, are these mounted on precast ballasts, or are they mounted on cast in place concrete footings? Are they just, I didn't see in the drawings, the plans, is this some type of delegated design that you're looking to have the solar person installer design that? Or is it, I'm getting at where if they're cast in place, that's a lot of concrete footers, what are we thinking about washout? And then are we doing any excavation kind of for those items to put in a footer so these don't move? Or is it just a surface set, on gravel precast block, or is it some other type of system? I'm familiar with a handful of systems, but not too many. I guess my first question there.
Yeah, so we're in the process of still really, I'll say finalizing it, but we're 98% there. Likely it's going to be piles that will be driven in the ground, which traditionally seems like the best as far as disturbance, is the least amount of disturbance in my eyes. Just from the perspective of ballast solar, you're kind of hauling around a lot more heavier loads. You're trying to get them in place. All it takes is one morning with a little bit of dew, and you're disturbing things. And then obviously, as you said, concrete. the thing that always scares me about that is the washout points, right? And how well those are maintained and serviced and that sort of thing. But I can say with not 100% certainty, but a very high level of certainty that this is going to be piles driven.
And
So
you
something
think,
like a helical pier
yeah, that's
or
what I was thinking.
Yeah,
Helical
more or
piles.
less.
a
Yeah.
screw pile. Yeah.
Yeah. Probably more common nowadays. So, okay. Anything else, Jonathan?
Um, I don't, I don't think I had anything else.
Well,
Thank you.
one point to clarify, you asked it in the very beginning, and I feel like we didn't do a very good job of answering it. Largely, this site is fairly flat. So I just wanted to make sure that was on the record because that was kind of your very first question, and I apologize for not answering that.
And there are just certain isolated areas that have a higher slope, and
Correct.
that's what caught my eye. So, in the proposed grading, you're doing a site like this, doing all this demo. The proposed grading is very sparse,
Mhm.
and then there's a couple existing contours really close together. I know that you're going to rip up most of this stuff, and you're going to have to, grade it out and so forth. I was just looking to in certain areas, you're going to have to. Kind of stretch out some of the slopes, and
Yeah.
it just wasn't represented that way on the plan. So
Yeah.
that
So
was
that's
my,
fair.
my question. Yeah.
To kind of echo that, right? If we show grades and we're doing a lot of cutting, now we're exposing more soil, right? And able to accomplish that. So there's always a fine balance of let grade the areas we need to grade and let's try and leave what's existing there today instead of, like noted in the northerly part of the site, it's all grass today, right? So I'm not trying to recreate those conditions.
Right. To me, it's just where it needs to be done, and that's why you get paid the big bucks is to do that grading. So, um, but Travis, any questions?
The waterway going through the site, I think you called it, it's a brook, it's a named brook, I believe.
Bonnie Brook.
I can see that Bonnie Brook has defined bed and bank in the aerial photos with inundation during all seasons. Looks like it also connects to Flint Pond, so I'm curious why it's intermittent and not subject to the Rivers Protection Act.
So with Bonnie Brook, we're going by the USGS, current USGS mapping and how it's been mapped for, I think we submitted maps back to the 50s of this area. And we also reference the decision for the warehouse building to the south, where the finding from the commission was that it's an intermittent stream. So with that permit still being active, that's what we went with on this with regards to the the designation of the stream with regards to being intermittent, being shown on the USGS maps as such, and having a existing filing, current order of conditions for the property just to the south for a 330,000 square foot warehouse that was recently permitted.
All right.
Yeah, Travis, this whole area is there used to be, major streams going through here, and so many of them have been altered over the decades. And it's like, there's some age here, and there's pipes everywhere. It's kind of a mystery on some of them, because I have some other questions related to that. But yeah, I mean that's reasonable. Yeah.
I'll go back to our notes because I thought we had another site nearby that was
Yeah, there's another one that's goes through
culverted.
culvert. Yep.
Yeah. Anyway, I'll put a pin in that. So you're clearing 2.5 acres of natural area classified as woods within the 100-foot buffer. I think you mentioned you're going to replace or you're going to reseed with an Ernst solar mix. They've got about 11 different seed mixes. Some are just fescue. Some actually have native flora or forbs and grasses. So it would be helpful if you could let us know which mix you're actually using. Because that native mix would provide a replacement for the impact within the 100-foot, which is why I asked.
Sure. I mean, if there's a preferred mix, I mean, I think
which one were you planning on using?
Yeah, just
you
digging
know?
it up right now. We have it noted
Yeah.
on the plan.
So I don't think I can tell you which one to use. Just that I would be more supportive if it was an actual native mix with a mix of native grasses and forbs.
So this is the Ernst mix, number 186, solar farm seed mix. Um,
And
I
to
can,
add to what Travis said is, we're more concerned with, within that 100-foot buffer, if there's,
Within the 100 foot, yeah.
yeah, that, hey, if you've
Yeah.
got more of a native mix that provides some, and then it also gets to how often you're mowing it and so forth. And that was another question why I asked how high. I mean, there's a whole maintenance, I get it, that you need to mow on a regular basis, but you don't have to mow it every single week. So,
Yeah. The 186 mix is just turf grass, so
yeah,
it doesn't provide any native replacement value.
yeah.
yep,
So
we can definitely look into the utilizing the native mix. I'll pull the spec on it and see what that is. The Ernst mix or
they've got quite a few.
yeah, or New England wildlife
Yep.
mixes as well. I
Yep.
expect those on plans all the time, so we
Yeah.
can look at something a little bit more robust for the buffer zone.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
just to help
again,
offset those impacts.
yeah, and again, it would be, it would be an upland mix and so forth. And there's lots of them out there. It's just trying to get a little bit more protection and a little bit more buffer, even though it's not a true buffer, but it's, we understand the site conditions. So,
That makes sense.
anything else, Travis?
I'll let you have at the you and Jonathan can go at the stormwater questions.
Sure. So, Noah, any questions?
No questions from me.
Okay. Um, a lot of my questions, I mean, this is, yes, you're removing some of what would be classified as woods and so forth, but the overall is that you are taking out quite a bit of impervious. But I do have just some questions around the stormwater and so forth. I have no issues with not adding any catch basins or anything else. The existing intermittent stream is kind of really funky because you go through all these culverts and they're all different sizes and they're all different numbers. And I'm just wondering, if there's any issues on site historically of a section flooding or anything, just to see if what you're doing now is actually going to make it better. The other kind of question with the existing drainage, and I'm sure you had a hard time, or whoever did the survey. Man, it's really hard to follow where everything's going. Generally, it's going to the north and it's wrapping around the building and it ends up on the east side and there's that whole big wetlands and floodplain. That's the general direction it's going in, and so my general question was, I was just trying to look at where some of the existing catch basins, and I know our peer reviewer mentioned that you had witnessed or observed that one of the drain manholes was full of dirt and so forth. And so, and again, if you're out there doing this work, you know, you're tending to allow the existing catch basins to still flow to places, but do they actually reach places? I mean, it's kind of tough because I don't know what's coming off the building. I'm sure you don't know what's coming off the buildings, what the buildings that you're demoing, if they went any place. So I'm just wondering if you've got a plan in place as far as figuring out what happens with the existing drainage system and where it goes, and if you're going to alter that in any way by this construction, not on purpose, but on this construction.
We're not looking to change any of the stormwater management infrastructure that exists today. There are a few basins that are noted full of sediment. I think that's when the survey was done. This is a little bit older survey. They had silt sacks in them. So this facility's under an active NIPD's industrial
Yep.
stormwater discharge permit. So they're required to maintain silt sacks in all these older structures that get changed out periodically. So I don't think the structure is filled with sediment anymore. This survey of this area is a little bit older, but when we get into site construction, there's a few catch basins in the, I believe it's the northerly part of the array that exist in this area. We'll make sure to properly clean those out. We've been working with Wyman Gordon on, having them dig through some of their record plans. It's kind of a hodgepodge of, older infrastructure, and back then people just kind of connected things and ran pipes in certain places. There are some existing discharges to Bonnie Brook, which we're not going to change. I believe some of those are roof drainage connections, more or less on the northerly side of the property. And then as you go down to on the site plan, maybe go to sheet 4.0. There's a major, it's more or less, call it a major, but a central stormwater discharge outfall that goes into the brook. So that's one of the main outfall points that's monitored for TSS, for metals, for other things. It has it's in the center of that page. It goes into, essentially, it looks like a large concrete box, and there's two 24-inch discharge pipes that leave that structure. So that's a major discharge point that takes a lot of the runoff from what's known as that property south of us that was sold off. So there's stormwater that's coming from the existing parking lots in there, from around that office building that's located in the front of the site. In this a lot of this infrastructure on, we'll call it the southeasterly side, feeds to that central point. Now, with regards to the remaining stormwater infrastructure that runs through here, there are some additional discharge points that discharge to the brook. We believe those to be primarily roof drainage discharge points. And then as you proceed northerly, as you kind of come around the bend, there are some catch basins in the existing paved driveway that provides access. Yeah, you can see how that driveway on that right side of the page goes all along the side of the building. So there's some existing stormwater management infrastructure located to collect runoff from that pavement through there that eventually makes its way into the stream. I believe it's the back section where it turns and goes 90 degrees.
Yeah. Like I said, I just had trouble following it because it is what it is. And it was more just questions. And if you have these many of panels, and you're doing helical piles, you're going to hit one or two. That's just what it does.
That's definitely going to be a concern of ours, and we're probably going to do a LiDAR survey of the lines where we're going to be installing the screw posts in there, because there's going to be a lot of utilities that are known and unknown. That's why we're trying to remove as much as we can, get those old railroad tracks out of there. Any of the existing infrastructure that we don't need. There's a bunch of old monitoring wells that are no longer needed. So there's a lot of infrastructure that exists through there that can go.
And then just a couple of general questions. You're not doing any battery storage, are you?
No battery storage.
Okay.
No battery storage.
Yeah.
Just
Okay.
Echo, no.
And I don't know
Okay.
if Adam, I think he hit on this earlier, but this isn't your traditional commercial solar system that's sending power to the grid and they're selling it for profit, right? This is going to be utilized by the facility to,
Right. And that's why I asked the question, because the reality is that to have an efficient flow of electricity, you'll have a lot of, facilities use the battery storage as a way to balance out and so forth, because otherwise, obviously, you're going to have certain peak times and then you may have a steady demand. It doesn't usually match up. So it's from our perspective, as far as the Conservation Commission, that's more of just a general question, because with battery storage and fire issues and fire suppression issues, it becomes more of like, if you're close to the wetlands, then we would be concerned. If you don't have it, we don't have to go any further into kind of discussing that. That's all. And then let me see. I think I hit. Oh, and just the gravel driveway. I don't remember if I saw. I don't remember if I saw a detail for it. Are you trying to make that somehow more porous, or is it really just a traditional gravel driveway that's basically impervious?
As far as the material, let's see, we have a little section on the detail sheet of it. Let me get to that. I mean, essentially it's just compacted gravel with the dense grade base material.
And that's, yeah. And I'm not saying you should do one over the other. It's
Mhm.
just, it's, even though it may not be, you can argue whether it's impervious or non-impervious, it has a higher curve number. That is not going to totally impact what's going on, because that's what you have. That's what I hope you have in your calcs. So, but just wondering if you were doing anything else to make it a little bit more porous. That was it.
Yeah, I mean, we could look to use some larger aggregate mixed in. We could take a
Yep.
look at that.
And that's based on the use and so forth. That's up to you guys as a design and so forth. I don't think it alternates it. You have a big change, but it's just a question. And it's it's basically for the fire department and so forth. So
Yeah, to echo Nick's point, we could definitely look at placing like a larger aggregate as the base and then something kind of as a top coat.
Yep.
I've seen that done a number of different times.
Yeah, and you can be successful with that. That's up to you. But that was just kind of a general question. I think that's pretty much what I have. I mean, it goes into the 100-foot buffer. You're staying outside of the 25-foot. I think some of our concerns is what's under our jurisdiction is, yes, we have the stormwater component of it. You're making it less impervious. I would probably give you a hint as far as the phosphorus and as far as some other things. Be creative, look at some other sources, because of the fact that you're having such long flow lengths of runoff over vegetation. You may be able to get some credit for that. So just think about not just what every single thing is in the MS4 charts or whatever, but just be creative. There's other ways of demonstrating, especially whether it's TSS or phosphorus removal. You just might have to search a little bit as far as what agency is using that and so forth. So just an FYI, it's always hard because you're doing the opposite of what those regulations are intended for. You're not adding, you're taking away. But there are some creative ways of doing water quality assessments when you have such long runs of water flowing over. I'm talking specifically, your source of your pavement areas and so forth, depending upon how it's set up. So FYI, there's other states that have other ways to analyze that. So as far as that goes, I'm going to go quickly around, and then I'll check in with Leah on what her outstanding stuff is to see if anyone else has anything. Jonathan, anything else to add or ask?
No, I don't have anything else. Thank you.
Yep. Travis?
Nope, nothing else right now.
Noah?
Nothing for me.
And Leah, anything to add from your report? Or I know that there's a revised plan that we haven't really looked at yet, but anything else?
All I have to add tonight is we did get their DEP number in just today. They did ask if alternative layouts have been considered, which would allow for existing portions of naturally vegetated buffer zone to be preserved to a greater extent while maintaining the project's goals. Knowing that was just today, I don't expect to button up that question. And the other thing is just that we now that they've provided revisions, we are now waiting on Graves' feedback of those revisions, but most everything else I had written out, we've already covered.
Okay. Sounds good. So I'll go first to if there's anyone online here has any questions. Please raise your hand. We'll be happy to call on you, and you'll be able to either ask a question or give your opinion on something. We're happy to receive that. And then Jan will monitor that, and then we'll kind of go, Jan, if you watch that, then we'll actually kind of go back to the applicant. Obviously, we're still waiting on a few things. And so the question to you is, do you want to extend this, continue this to the next meeting, or any other further meeting in the future?
So one quick question before
Yep.
we continue. Kind of going back to the phosphorus item.
Yep.
I understand your concerns about trying to make the numbers work. A detailed reading of the requirement, states that the reductions are related to the total post-construction impervious area. So where we're stating that we're removing essentially all the impervious in this area that we're redeveloping, it's a hard one to satisfy. When you
Right.
read the requirement that's in the bylaw versus generating numbers that aren't meant to be generated for a development like this. So I just wanted to say that I still have to coordinate with Leah and touch base with maybe their consultant one more time on it. But we did submit some more supporting information detailing what the existing total phosphorus is today and what it will be once we do our redevelopment. And it's a significant decrease. We're decreasing it by 2/3 of what is there today.
Right. And to be honest, I
And-
think you're decreasing it even more than that.
Yeah, I'm like without looking at it, it's substantial.
Yep.
And we have essentially no impervious areas in this. We have that remaining concrete foundation, couple thousand square feet of impervious coverage that's remaining in this development area. So, a literal reading of the requirement where it states total post-construction impervious area, which makes sense because in able to satisfy those requirements, you're sending that post-development impervious to a stormwater management practice that's been where you have established values, where you have removal percentages that have been established by the EPA. So I don't know what type of engineering wizardry I can do to satisfy that requirement when there's essentially no impervious coverage remaining in our development area.
So to me, having done this for a very long time, just go back to the intent of the regulation, and it's intended for projects that are adding that. I know what you're reading and I get it, but again, I think sometimes it doesn't fit into that requirement. And just all the other things that you're doing here. If you've worked on restoration projects, it's always hard because you're not doing a typical project. That's part of your discussion on why you're not just meeting, you're exceeding the requirements. And it's more of an interpretation of the regulations and the fact that that those regulations are just not intended for a project like this. And it goes back to the intent of the regulations almost, as opposed to making certain numbers work. So I'm just giving you a couple of different approaches to think about it, and maybe look at some of the the actual, you're talking some of the regulations you're reading, but sometimes it's the actual, um, legal laws and so forth, especially on the federal level and on the state level, what the intent of the law is for. And if you don't meet that intent, you have a good argument to say, yeah, this is the opposite of what this is for, and we're well exceeding what the reductions need to be. I'm just saying, go ahead and be creative. As far as, the commission goes, we'll kind of review that and understand that. That's just, it's interpretation of the boards that you're in front of that you're going to have to convince each board depending upon how you do it. I don't know if that's helpful or not.
Understood. All right. Well, I did submit some additional information, so I'll give you guys some time to
Yeah.
look at it, and we'll go from there.
Yep. Okay. Jan, anyone from the audience?
Nothing
Public?
from the public.
Nothing from the public. And again, just to go back to the applicant, do you want to continue this? Continue this hearing?
I believe so. Nick, please jump in if you.
Yeah, no, yeah, we're more than happy to continue the hearing.
Yep.
So just to clarify, continuing for.
You can choose our next meeting, which is
No,
when, Leah?
yeah, we would
Okay.
definitely want to continue to the next meeting, but we're looking to get the final response from Graves. Are we looking
Yep.
to address anything
Yes.
specific? So are you looking for additional information on any particular topic?
So kind of some of the comments that Leah originally had, and you can jump in, Leah, is hopefully they're addressed in the updated plans. We haven't looked at those. I'm not looking for anything specific. I think we had the questions tonight as far as like maybe look at the seed mixes to have
Mhm.
something appropriate for within the 100-foot buffer or whatever zone that you want to do that includes the 100-foot buffer, those type of things. I think you have a discussion about having some potential minor erosion in kind of the O&M plan. That's something we'll have to look at. That might be something that's conditioned or a condition or something to say, if you have extensive erosion, then you're going to have to come back and do something. Those are the type of things, but those to me are more conditions than having to go to another meeting. I don't know if Leah, if you have anything else as far as what you have on your side.
I would say your other point about the detail of the driveway.
Yep.
We need the final Graves sign off.
Mhm.
We'll have to consider the waivers and a response to the DEP comment look like the big items.
Okay. What was the DEP comment, Leah? Didn't
If
see that.
they've considered allowing greater portions of naturally vegetated buffer zone.
Oh, okay. All right. I read that comment, but I didn't realize it was from DEP. Okay.
Okay. No, I appreciate that. It's always good to just have clear objectives, right? As part of the continuance. So we all know where you guys stand and where we stand. And we should be able to address those minor items before the next meeting in a couple weeks. And I hope Graves can do a quick review on the recent submission. I did get an email response back from Mr. Walsh saying he received the revised plans and that he was going to start taking a look at them and hopefully have it wrapped up within a week. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, we can't make any promises, but I don't see any big red flags as far as having to continue again. I mean, at this point. So
All right.
we'll have to see what happens at the next meeting. So you have requested a continuance. When would you like it to the next meeting?
Yes, please.
Is that the 17th?
Yep.
Leah? Okay. Do I have a motion?
I'll move to continue the hearing to March 17th for 244 Worcester Street.
Second.
Do I have a motion and a second? Roll call vote. Travis?
Yes.
Noah?
Yes.
Jonathan?
Yes.
I am also a yes. So we'll see you in a couple weeks. And then if you have any questions, please reach out to staff, to Leah or Jan. I'm sure they can help you out with that. So
Thank you very much. We appreciate your time and have a great rest of your evening.
Yeah, thanks again for the time. Really
all
appreciate
right,
it.
no problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Leah, next one up is continued.
Correct.
Okay, I need to go back and read that in. Okay, so let's get to this one. So it's 21 Meadowbrook. Okay. Pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, the Grafton Wetlands Protection Bylaw, the Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing to act upon a notice of intent for the construction of a single-family house at 21 Meadowbrook. The applicant has requested a continuance to March 17th. Do I have a motion for continuance?
Move to continue the hearing to March 17th for 21 Meadowbrook Road.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote. Jonathan,
Yes.
Travis,
Yes.
Noah.
Yes.
I am also a yes. The motion carries. Okay. Action items. Start at the top, Leah.
Yep.
Meeting minutes. Has everyone had a chance to read them? And does anyone have any comments or recommendations on them? I'll go quickly around. Jonathan, anything?
No questions, no comments.
Travis,
Nope. No questions.
Noah.
Nothing from me.
I also don't have anything. So do we have a motion in a second?
Move to approve the meeting minutes for February 3rd, 2026.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call vote. Noah.
Yes.
Travis.
Yes.
Jonathan.
Yes.
I am also a yes. The motion carries. All right. Request for partial certification for 2 Windsor Lane. Which one is that?
So, Winslow Point is the apartment complex right in front of what is their name now? Woodland Hill on Institute Road. So not the single family houses, but the apartments down the hill.
Yep.
They are working on closing out that whole thing, but this one unit needs to sell in the meantime, so we just need to give them a partial, and I have no issues with doing that.
Yeah. But it's one of the condos in the multifamily buildings, right?
Correct.
Okay, cool. We can does anyone have any questions on this? Jonathan, Travis,
No.
Noah?
Nope.
No. Do I have a motion?
I'll move to issue a partial COC for 2 Winslow Lane, Unit 302.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote. Jonathan?
Yes.
Travis?
Yes.
Noah?
Yes.
I'm also a yes. The motion carries. Next up, Highfields.
Yeah, do you wanna I have 2 things for them, and we have one other real quick COC. I don't know what order you wanted to go in. We do have someone on the line for Highfields.
You want to do Hawthorne and then I can hop off?
There you go. So we'll do Hawthorne first.
Okay.
Please.
Short story on that one, Leah.
So this is a super old permit before we even had DEP numbers, but it came up on somebody's title search. We had in the files that we had issued a complete COC, but it never made it to the registry, so we just need to give them an original so they can clean that up.
Oh, okay. That's pretty straightforward. Do we have a motion?
I'll move to reissue the certificate of compliance for 29 Hawthorne Street.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote. Noah?
Yes.
Travis?
Yes.
And Jonathan?
Yes.
And I am also a yes. The motion carries. And Travis gets to jump off.
All right. Have a good evening, everybody.
Thank
Yeah, you
you.
too.
Good night.
Bye.
Let's go back to Highfields then.
Okay, so We do have a representative from their team in attendees. We can promote him to talk if you'd like, but I can get us started.
Okay.
So they have three permits left outstanding for the subdivision. The biggest one we're not looking to close out tonight because they still have some things they're wrapping up. That's 164591. So that one will still stand for the time being. But they also had 164371 and 164483. So 371 came well before 591 and was supposed to have been replaced by 591, but nobody ever circled back around to actually close 371. So we all these years have been issuing everyone partials from both because both come up on title searches for any property in Highfields on McGill Drive. Um, so I read through 371. It doesn't have anything outstanding in that isn't also captured in 591. So I would be okay closing out 371 for now, since we are not closing out 591. The other file number 164483 was for 10 specific house lots. We already closed 6 of them off of this order when we issued COCs for phase 1 of the subdivision, so the lower loop road. The remaining 4 houses, which I listed here, 82, 84, 86, and 88 McGill, their construction's done, the lots are stable, there's no outstanding items in that permit. I'm okay closing the books on that one as well. All that being said, I'll just reiterate, we are keeping 164591 open. We're not ready to close that one out yet. That's the one that's dealing with the CR on the open space, the wetland
Gotcha.
replication, a few other items that are tied to that, but we're just trying to march towards closing the books on this subdivision, and these are the pieces I would be comfortable doing thus
Okay.
far. And we do have Audie Osgood on the line, who's with the team, if you guys have any questions for him.
Okay. And it seems fairly straightforward. Go around to see if anyone else has any questions. Jonathan?
I don't have any questions, but I'm looking at I guess I do have a question. I'm looking at the report and I don't see a lot of the numbers and the things that you just rattled off. So if we are doing some type of motion, I might need some guidance there with
So
all
it's
that feedback. Or
Is
is
it
it
in your report?
yes, it's at the top of page 2.
Okay, so
Oh,
look
okay.
at the report, not the.
Do you find it?
Yes, sorry. I was looking down at the discussion items for Highfields. That's why. Sorry.
Okay. No
Okay.
worries. Not quite there
With
yet,
you
but
now. With you now.
got it.
I was just jumping ahead. That's all. I'm with you now. Sorry, no question.
Okay, yeah, I got it. Okay, I don't have any issue. Jonathan, any issue now that we kind of have a better definition?
No, no issue.
Noah, any issues, questions on that?
Nothing for me.
Okay, I don't. I think it's continuing to clean up stuff. So can I have a motion?
I'll move to issue the certificates of compliance for 164371, and correct me if I'm wrong, Leah, 216 and DEP 164483 and 329 for Highfields.
You are correct. I will just specify that the latter numbers are our wetland permit numbers, so they go with the order. So 216 goes with 164371, and 329 goes with 164483.
Okay. Any other further discussion on that as far as the actual motion? I would just say the remaining lots for 483, lots for 82, 84, 86, and 88 McGill are included. Other than that, don't have anything else to add. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote. Jonathan?
Yes.
Noah?
Yes.
I am also a yes. The motion carries. And we do have one abstention, Travis. Okay. Next up. Or is there anything left, Leah?
No, there is. Sorry, I just had to plug my laptop in really fast.
Okay.
Okay, the last thing for Highfields, going back to the order that remains open, they are proposing the idea of the commission holding a bond for verification of their replication plantings and the plantings associated with the whole realignment that they did under an RDA with us.
Okay.
Um, so this is in an attempt to, if they satisfy everything and the commission's comfortable closing 164591, they would get this bond for us to hold. Should, we get to spring and be able to verify plantings out there and find something inadequate or needing to be addressed. So kind of like an insurance policy, since we can't verify the 75% success literally right now.
Right.
So they sent an amount, a little over 13,000. I did send the figure to Art to get his take. He feels it would be adequate provided the bulk of the work was done, and it's only a matter of some possible replacements.
Yep.
At my last visit, the plantings were in for the wetland replication area. The seed mix itself hadn't really well established just yet. And at the time, only preliminary prep work had been done at the whole realignment. I hadn't seen the plantings in, and I haven't been back out since. So I did want to pull Audie over, give him the ability
Okay.
to talk. If he can just speak to where we stand at the whole realignment project. The only other point I had to make to the commission was just, should we close 164591 and then hold this bond? It is like leverage or our insurance policy, if you will, but it does then
Yep.
put the burden on staff to execute anything that we find. I just
Right.
wanted to make you guys aware of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And my question is I know we've held bonds before, and it's more just like the legality of it and making sure we do it in the correct manner would be the
Sure.
first kind of question that I would have. And then, if it's, and again, if it's not a tremendous amount that you have to do, they'll take care of it because they would then not get their cash bond back, is what I'm thinking. And it is a cash bond and not a standard construction bond.
Um, some folks have given us the cash, others go and get a bond. That's like the
Right.
paperwork version. But I do, so to your point of, I guess maybe you're interpreting it differently than I am. To your point of they would take care of it because they want the bond back.
Yep.
You have a good point. I was thinking of it as, if we closed 591, we don't have leverage to, withhold a COC anymore. And the wetland replication is on the open space. So I was thinking it was putting the ball in our court, but I think you're right.
It's a little of both. Because they could say, yeah, well, why don't you guys do it and use the 13 grand for it?
Yeah.
Or, oh, we can go out and do it for 2,000. We want the whole bond back. So
Okay.
it kind of can work both ways. It really gets into what the actual amount is.
Okay. Got it.
So that's kind of what motivates and so forth. I would think, I don't know, Jonathan, if you've got a kind of a sense of, is the 13,000, is that reasonable? I know you probably haven't looked at anything, but this is a wetland replication type of thing.
it's tough to say. We normally see bond rates for construction projects that vary between 0.75% and 3.5%, depending on the bond rate of who you're bonding.
Right.
It just varies on the project, the scope, and the
Right.
history of the person. But if they're putting up, to Leah's earlier point, if it's going to be chasing, if there's going to be a lot of additional work for staff to do all this, I just don't know how that is going to. It seems like we're doing something that could help them, and then as long as they satisfy it at the end of the day, they're going to get their bond back. But is there a time limit associated with that performance in the bond or in this, or is it could take years? You could be
So
looking back to this, you know.
that's a really good question. Is I would think that it would be whatever the spring season is, that's when it has to be done. You know.
I would think so too. I'm just thinking that if it doesn't happen and then they've got a bond for 13 grand or whatever it is, whether it's a cash bond or just a construction bond of some kind, that if it's a year from now and we're still having the same conversation, because whatever, life happens, something changes.
Yep.
Then if Leah and Jan, you're still chasing this and, meeting on it and whatever, it seems like I'm just thinking if there is a way to stipulate that we put some type of a time restriction on it, that might help get it closed out faster and encourage not only on the cost side, but again, I'm not trying to put anyone in a situation where they can't achieve it. We just want to be able to have some type of a timeline, I think.
Yeah. And yours kind of folds into what I am, is like the legality of it. And I don't know enough about bonds to say, hey, we can put if you don't complete this by a date, whatever, like June 1st or May 30th or whatever it is, whatever is reasonable for the spring, and then we would automatically get that bond. That to me is the motivation to have them do it, especially if it's not a lot of work. So it's the bond number that kind of is the incentive.
Almost
So
like retainage. Yeah,
you
retainage on
got
the
it.
project.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And
And that's, yeah.
I'm just saying I've never seen in my time in the industry, I've never seen a bond used like this, but obviously this isn't a typical thing,
It's a bond for permitting. It's not a bond for a
for,
retainage that you would have for construction. Yeah.
right.
I mean, that's a whole different contractual thing, but it's similar. It's just because of how it's, and to be honest, I just don't know. I know planning board does the bonds all the time, and that's the intent, is so that if someone leaves, they can finish certain components of it. This is very specific. That's the only
Yeah.
reason. That's the only reason that I would even think about this, because it's a set, Leah, right? It's two components. It's the replication and the realignment. And
Right. And like you said, like planning holds some like that, but we have as well. We hold a
right,
handful on projects now that, should they, and we always get them for worst case scenario. Should they strip the whole site and then,
yep,
not put in any stormwater infrastructure, what would we need to stabilize it so that we don't have issues, is the kind we're typically holding.
correct, yep,
But I guess, so I did want to hear what Audie's take is on the status of
okay,
plantings at the whole realignment project. But the bigger picture for this evening is I was just wanting to know if the commission was willing to entertain this process. And I can work out like the draft with town council and the figure in the background, which is what we usually do with those other types of bonds as well, if that's something you guys are comfortable with. I just wanted to make sure you would be accepting of this process.
It is the goal that if it doesn't happen, and sorry, I'm going to ask a question. Hopefully it's reasonable. Is the goal that if it doesn't happen, then we would pull the bond and then use that 13,000 or whatever the total value is to actually do the work, and then you'd be managing it, Leah? Or
Correct. That's the worst case. Yes.
obviously you don't want to
Um,
get to that position, but that is obviously the true
right.
benefit of bond if we get to that point.
Right.
And I guess maybe that's what you were asking first, Sandy, is, I I mean, if we get an idea of how many plantings or how much area, it doesn't include any other scope as part of that, just trying to get what the backup is. Because if, let's say that's $35,000 worth of work, right? Let's say the market rate for that work is $35,000 to do that scope. I don't know what it is, but let's say it is. Then we're sitting there with 13 grand trying to finish something that we hypothetically wouldn't be able to do properly. So I don't know if
Right.
there's validation of that scope versus a
S-
rough estimate, some type of feedback.
So I know in the past, like we would have, especially on some sort of like erosion control construction kind of bond that we do, we would sometimes have our peer review take a quick look at it, you know, and
Right. And I did run this by Art since it's on the wetland side of
yeah,
things. And he said that he felt it was an adequate number provided the bulk of the work is done and it's
right.
just a matter of some possible replacement plantings, which is why I put my notes down here about, Jan and I saw the plantings for the replication area.
Yep.
Those were in. I mean, they were only newly in, so I can't speak to survival. The seed mix, itself wasn't well established yet, but I don't know about the status of plantings at all at the whole realignment because they were only prepping that area the last time we were out.
Yep. So, well, once you have the representative that's on, just to kind of give a quick, give them the opportunity to, um, convince us or whatever, or give us additional information.
So, Audie, if you can hear us, you've been promoted to be able to speak. If you unmute, we should be able to hear you. I know he is listed twice in attendees. I don't know if you want to try promoting both. He might have shared the link with somebody. No luck.
About now.
We
Cool.
can
This
hear
thing's
you,
on.
but echoed many times over.
All right. I need to figure out how to close one of these. How about now?
Same.
How about now?
Still echoing.
You've got two different devices on, so you got to mute one of them.
How about now?
There you go.
Awesome. Apologies for that. I don't use Zoom very often. A couple of things that I heard that I'd be happy to try and address here. The basis for the number was we took the actual cost for all of the plantings for both of those projects. We had actual receipts um, from the nursery for those plants, and they've all been installed. I have no reason to think that any of them weren't. Uh, and we took that amount, we we took 75% of that and then added 10% for the change in, you know, costs over the last couple of years to make some sort of an assumption that the prices probably were going up on those plantings. I think that, and I'd have to go back and talk to the client about this, but I don't see why he would be opposed to posting a cash deposit as opposed to some sort of actual bond for this. It seems like a small enough number that it would be an easy enough thing for him to just manage that direction, that fashion. And I think your point about a time frame is excellent. I think he would agree to have some sort of time frame in place. We believe that the plantings are there and that we have a 75% survival rate now. So I don't think, the timing of when the work would need to be done. Hopefully, there's no work that needs to be done. So I don't think a calendar item would be a problem at all for that.
All right, thank you. So Leah, is there any, I mean, obviously, if we could do a cash kind of bond, that's the easiest and probably the most motivation to do that. Um,
Yep, that would be fine.
okay.
I guess I kind of feel like maybe we should have a vote on this only because normally when we're going to hold a bond, it's like voted on through special conditions. Um, so just to formalize it, I guess if you
Okay.
guys are comfortable, I'd want to have a vote that you're wanting to accept.
I think that's, yeah, I think that's reasonable to have it in the, so it's in the minutes and everything, and
Okay.
the amount is in the minutes and the general discussion is. And let me quickly ask Jonathan, any reason why you wouldn't want to kind of just do a motion and discussion and vote on it?
A motion to express interest in this approach with more research to follow, or a motion to accept this approach with Leah to manage and handle it after the fact? Because there seems like there are some moving pieces.
Okay. So, Leah, what do you think? I mean, this impacts you more than anyone else. Um, do you have, do you, you know, as far as like you'll end up on staff's kind of plate if they don't do anything, we have to do something. Do you have any questions around that or, um,
I don't think so. I'm comfortable with this. I'm comfortable that, Audie's probably right. Everything's probably fine. Maybe not literally 100% of the plants, but I would think the bulk. I know they made good progress on things. We just, you know, because of the weather, can't check it right now.
right?
It's good to talk through worst case scenario, but I think this would be an okay approach.
Does that help you, Jonathan?
So I guess I'm going where am I going with this motion? Is this a motion?
Right. Well, I think it's just, I think based on your question, it was more of a discussion on the motion. And then I just want to make sure everyone's on the same page of what we're doing. So what I'm hearing here is that when we do make the motion, because I want to check in with Noah too, if we do make the motion, then it's fairly straightforward that a cash motion, a cash bond for the potential remaining planting for the replication and the relocation of the whole. I think, is that pretty close?
Yeah, and I would just if you're willing, I would leave it a little more vague so that the
Okay.
commission's willing to accept a bond to cover 75% success of the plantings on
Okay.
the wetland replication and the whole realignment. I wouldn't put the figure in it or anything, and just in case we gotta do any
Do
back and
something.
forth.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. That sounds good to me. How does that sound, Jonathan?
Sounds good to me.
Okay. And Noah, do you have any questions or comments on this?
No.
Okay. This is a fun part because I don't do motions as chair. I get to go back to Jonathan.
I can say it if you want to say so moved.
It's 8:49. I love it. Go ahead, Leah.
So I would
Please.
say you'd be making a motion that the commission will accept a bond to ensure 75% success of the plantings and the wetland replication and whole realignment areas for the Highfields subdivision.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All right. Roll call vote. Jonathan.
Yes.
Noah.
Yes.
I am also a yes. The motion carries. So thank you. Thank you, Leah, for kind of going
Thank you.
through that. Hopefully we don't have to hopefully then, it becomes moot and
Right.
we just move on. But it's just good to talk about it and just make sure everyone's on the same page. So appreciate that.
Sure.
Thank
Okay.
you very much.
Anything else? Oh, no problem. Anything else, Leah?
That's all I have.
One last motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. Roll call vote. Noah.
Yes.
Jonathan.
Yes.
I am also a yes. The motion carries, and Travis is already home and already in bed,
Staying in
going
bed.
to sleep because he had to abstain from this discussion. So all good. Thank you very much.